What's up, ladies and gentlemen? This is my next video in the series Demon in Review. And for this one, I will be talking about a demon that needs no introduction. We're going to be talking about Lucifer. Now, Lucifer is a entity that I kind of put off conjuring for several reasons. Part of it is because there is so much there's so much kind of, I'm kind of polluted. It's kind of like I'm already biased to think what I'm going to think about him. And I don't like to go into working with an entity knowing too much. You know, the more you know sometimes, the more it can pollute your experience with them. I like my first interaction with them to be kind of pure. And I say first, which might seem strange to people knowing my history, but I say first because growing up as a Christian, it was kind of wrong. And the entities that I dealt with weren't Lucifer, that I was aware of. Except when I was a kid, I was kind of under the impression that I probably was. It's kind of like you don't want to admit to yourself that you're doing something that you're doing. Let's put it like that. And I remember when I was a little kid, I would be running through the fields at night under a full moon, doing things in my grandparents' place, big giant woods in the middle of the Adirondacks, middle of the mountains. It was gorgeous, especially at night with the full moon overhead, a nice golden moon overhead, like low on the horizon with the mountains behind them and everything. And I remember talking to what I thought was God, and I'd be asking God questions, and I'd hear it as a voice in the back of my mind all the time. And I remember one time asking it, are you God, really? Really, are you God? And it said no. And I was like, oh. And then I said, are you the devil? It said maybe. And I was freaked out, Well, many years later, after a few months, after a few weeks of being reawakened to magic again, I said, you know what, I can't ignore this entity anymore. But I felt like this entity in particular doesn't want me to talk to it through a sigil. It just seemed weird to contact an entity that's supposed to be this prevalent through a sigil. And so I attempted what I call deep scrying instead. I stood in front of my old antique mirror, and I started scrying, and I started seeing things, and I said, I think Lucifer's coming through. I wasn't going into this intending to talk to Lucifer. It was just going to be, let's see what we see type of scrying. I just was curious. I want to see if I can make contact with something. And I saw what can only be described as like a serpent's eye, like a golden green serpent's eye. And as I stared at it, it was in my right eye. I saw it. It was kind of appearing in my own reflection in my right eye. Now, if you do scrying, you should be doing this in a dimly lit room, so that your own features are there, but they're dim and they're hard to make out somewhat. It doesn't have to be pitch black. It doesn't have to be really dark. It just has to be like twilight or lower. And just this way the Troxler effect can take over, and you can really start to you kind of hallucinate, and your subconscious will fill in the blanks, and you can get connection with the spirit realm that way. And so this is what's happening to me. I'm starting to see things in the mirror, and I see the mouth moving like I'm talking, but my mouth is perfectly still. And that's when I start realizing that the mouth moving is matching up to the kinds of things I'm thinking. And I said, wait a minute, is something there? And it's like, yes. And it's speaking in my own voice, but it's starting to sound more and more like a syrupy, sweet kind of voice, and more like the voice I remember in that field from a long time ago. And I'm like, uh-oh. Okay, this is important, And it's starting to talk through me in this very syrupy, very, it's very much about giving you, like, an ego boost. It's very much, and also, like, how awesome it is. So, once I determined that this was Lucifer, because I asked it, it's like, yes, and we started communicating, it was just very syrupy and very, like, I love you, you're my beloved, you're one of my favorites, you are special, and he started appearing to me as this beautiful angel with, like, pale white skin, like paper white skin, and golden eyes, and golden hair, and flaming bat wings, I guess you could describe them almost, but not unlike a bird's wing at the same time. It was almost like the flames were feathers, but the structure was like a bat skeleton in it, and it was really just trippy. And I started seeing, like, I saw this like falling star with like an angel in it falling down to earth, and And then I saw him sitting with no wings, like in a chair, looking like Conan at the end of the movies, looking depressed with like this light shining on him and this emptiness and this darkness. And I was like understanding that this was like the symbology of his rise and fall, kind of. I hadn't put it all together yet, but I'm still I was still working on it. I kind of understand it better now. That he wasn't showing me like he was cast out of heaven. That's not what happened. This is not how this works. None of that is really real. It's more of a cultural thing. He went from being a Hellenistic or Egyptian, Horus, this god that everybody reveres, to becoming demonized. And this is his fall that he's showing. He's falling from the sky, which is also symbolic of he is the morning star rising and falling. And so this is the kinds of things that are coming through as I'm talking to him. And I'm getting more and more visions, and he's giving me a method to open my third eye better, because that was one of the things I wanted from him. And again, I want to make sure you understand that for me, he comes through as, like, he's not patronizing. He's not like, oh, you're the best at everything, do what I want. He's very much interested in appealing to your sense of pride. He definitely wants you to feel like you're important and special, because you are to him, I guess. But in turn, he's special and magnificent. Do not ever make the mistake of thinking he's below you or above you. He wants you to see eye to eye. He wants you to face the truth. And that's another very big thing with him, is self-knowledge. And I think one of the reasons why he pushes such a strong sense of self-worth on you is because a lot of us kind of have a sense of false humility. We kind of all say, well, I'm not good enough, I'm not this. And that's not true. You are good enough. You are special. You are important. Your place in the universe is not insignificant. Even if you are insignificant in this material world, you don't have a lot of power, your place in the universe, in the grand scheme, is actually rather important. It's central. You're the center of the universe as far as you're concerned. And he wants you to understand this, and he wants you to know your place as a being of power. He wants you to take that power with both hands and not give it up. So he's constantly, for me, uplifting. Now for you, he might put you in your place. If you're a little too arrogant, he can put you in your place too. Remember, pride cometh before the fall. So he may take you down a peg if you're too arrogant. That's also possible, I think, although he didn't do that to me. I think for me it was because of certain things about me, especially at that time, I needed that little boost in ego, so he was there to help me with that. So be aware. Now, he is known by many to be very good at opening your astral senses. It's letting you see spirits, commune with spirits. He's very good at this. And I will say that because of him, my own senses have improved. He gave me some exercises, which I do fairly frequently, although I haven't done them in a little while, but they involve creating a psi ball, a chi ball. Now, you may disregard that because it's not part of your practice. You can do it other ways. He comes to you with what you understand. So if you understand chi, or if you believe in chi balls, even if they don't exist in some culture or whatever, that's what he's going to speak to you in. So he showed me this exercise to do with my chakras in a ball of, you could even call it prana, with this ball of energy, and pushing it into my third eye until it kind of pushes in, and breathing out. And this exercise, I wrote it all down in this blog post, and I'm not going to perform it for you now, but breaking through this barrier until it's open. And it was very useful to me, and it worked, because no sooner had I done this than I entered like this vivid half astral, half normal experience where my eyes were closed and I was looking around. It was almost like VR, because I was kind of seeing like strong lingering flashes of another place. And I came to understand it as King Paymon's tent, and Lucifer was there, and Malthus was there, and Nyarlathotep was there, and Astaroth, Ishtar, Isis was there. Astarte was there, and in different forms, like changing a little bit. And some others were there, and I couldn't make them all out because it was kind of like my third eye was a little fuzzy, but I could make out these important parts and this big fire. And as I'm doing this practice, they're all there guiding me and kind of taking part in it. And it was a very vivid experience. I don't think that's going to happen for everybody. I think most people are just going to have a little experience with him. But it was very important. He also said something to me to the effect of some people are chosen by him and others because of our adversarial spirit, our spirit of wanting to be independent and to know ourselves. And we're kind of unique in the world. And so he told me that I never have to go to any lengths to evoke him. All I have to do pretty much is focus on him correctly, and he'll be there in the back of my mind helping me. So it seems to be true, because I can seem to get that inner voice to pop up and hold conversations with it a little bit. But I don't rely on it. I actually kind of keep that as like a special thing. Like, I don't want to make this like I do this every day and cheapen it. I want this to be when I want specific guidance, you know. So keep that in mind. So the big key things here are, again, he wants you to know yourself, and he will uplift you, or he can bring you down a peg. And he's very syrupy towards people that he likes. He's going to be very complimenting. He does ask that you, I mean, he doesn't ask, but you get the impression that he wants you to be impressed with him, you know, because he's impressed with himself. You can kind of get that feeling. Just the way he looks and acts, it's almost like effeminate, like he's male and female, which makes sense because in history he was Venus as well. So he kind of can have this very effeminate but masculine at the same time, like, you know, like the perfect androgynous kind of, everyone's going to find him sexy kind of look that just kind of like is going to be very powerful for you. So be aware of that. If you get the visions at all, it may be like that for you. If you're heterosexual, you still might be like, wow, that's just a beautiful man. You know, you're still gonna have this weird feeling. So, or he may even appear female to you. I have some people who have written to me, or in their own writings have said that Lucifer comes as a Lucy instead of a Lucifer. I guess that's a possibility. But I would think that it would be Venus that's coming through to you, the aspect of that same entity. And once again, it should be important to know that one of the reasons why I stay away from certain biblical entities is because there's so much, we're going to say, bullshit about them, that is because of what Christians and other Abrahamists have done in history. They burn history and rewrite it because they're the victors. And so a lot of people don't know the connections to the old gods, the Hellenistic gods, and so on. And it can get really hard to get a bead on where these entities really are from and what the lineage of their interaction with humankind has been. So you can start off with it being a male figure and becoming a female figure and becoming a male again and changing names and all sorts of stuff, but it's still the same energy, the same principal force behind it, or archetype. So be aware of that. This is why it's important to go into these works with an open mind and without getting too much information. You need just enough to lock in on them. You know, you just need to know the frequency, and then don't do anything until you've contacted them once at least. Contact them once, and then you can do all the research you want. All right, that's it for this video. The next one is, I'm not sure, I'll have to look, but I think it's going to be on Vine. That's going to be the next one, Vine, which you don't really want to say Vine, you want to say Vine or Vine. And we'll see how that goes. Check you out soon.